De patroonheilige van de wielrenners, wielertoeristen, maar ook coureurs. En de beslissing zal wellicht gaan vallen op die Villa Vergano. Nieuwe helling in het slot van deze zware klassieker.
Sono i nomi più conosciuti anche da parte, quelli come me, un po' ignoranti in materia. Però se c'è un Nibali...
Lombardia sempre durissimo quest'anno, a parte
Joaquim Rodríguez.
tutti gli avversari arrivano al 100%, comunque sicuramente si vedrà una corsa molto dura. Personalmente arrivo bene.
Ciao. Andiamo. Come no? Grandissimo Michele. Bella quella come lì. Grazie. Grande Michele. Ciao bello, ciao.
Michele Scarponi, team Lampremerita, a distanza di una settimana dal mondiale siamo pronti per un importantissimo Giro di Lombardia.
Sì, siamo pronti per un appuntamento importante come Giro Lombardia, una gara importantissima, una delle classiche monumento. Chiaramente cercheremo di far bene perché comunque è una corsa che si addice parecchio alle mie caratteristiche, a quelle di Diego Lissi che sta pedalando davvero bene. E abbiamo una squadra competitiva per tutto il percorso, quindi cercheremo di far bene. Poi chiaramente ci sono gli avversari, tutti gli avversari diciamo, che hanno corso il mondiale ci saranno anche oggi, quindi ci sarà un livello altissimo, ma noi siamo fiduciosi dei nostri mezzi e cercheremo di essere diciamo, nelle fasi finali protagonisti.
Ti aspetti una rivincita riguardo dopo il mondiale da parte di qualcuno?
Ma mi aspetto che tutti vadano forte, mi aspetto innanzitutto che Rui Costa dopo il mondiale voglia fare un bel Lombardia perché è un corriere fortissimo, mi aspetto che Rodríguez l'anno scorso ha vinto Lombardia, domenica ha fatto secondo, voglia una mezza rivincita da riconfermare Lombardia, mi aspetto che Nibali voglia riconfermare che sia il più forte, che Valverde di pum papà, che tutto deve andare bene, quindi speriamo di andare bene anche noi.
Vediamo anche Michele Scarponi con la forza come al mondiale.
Speriamo che io vada forte con il mondiale e che gli altri vadano un po' meno.
Grazie.
Complimenti con la Milano.
Sei gentilissimo, fortissimo. Grazie. No, non è più bello dell'ultimo. Ciao. Dai.
Di là in fondo lo davano i fogli. Posso una foto prima, no? Grazie.
Ciao Bruno.
Buongiorno Diano.
Con i carta
These are all not too.
Parcheggiano le bici, io sono in contatto di via e invece perfetto non si parla di domani. Vediamo per quanto riguarda questo team che manca uno che avete
al Giro. Metti puzzo. Sì.
se non fa freddo però là.
No, lì va. Ok, ciao.
Una delantera de Cortintano. No. Tanto va allá. ¿Tienes una bola? ¿Un pelotón? Ahí en ese coche hay.
Mamma, un secondo. Canciava lì nella pianta. Sormano.
Nata.
Andiamo.
Guarda qua. Grazie.
Grazie Peppe.
Andrew.
Data? Grazie.
Alejandro, questo
Garone da...
corrido la Lombardia, siete precioso. Como ha sido esta semana post mundial, también un poco las heridas ahí con el equipo.
La gana de hoy se va a quedar en mi memoria para siempre, con la primera vez del maillot de campeón del mundo.
Wat ging dat?
Attaccante gaat dit geven de rand atrás. Had ik voorhand de rand atrás.
So the sign-in this afternoon went like this. Bergamo playing host to
Vado a sistemare che mi sono vestito troppo.
Attenzione, fai passare Aru perché sennò questo...
Prima rispetto a quello che è l'arco, ora si stanno completando tutte le operazioni preliminari e tra poco si sposterà.
Marco, con la carrozzella per favore, ve l'ho già detto prima, da un lato.
Hello, it's that time of year again, the race of the falling leaves. Lecco awaits us, the final monument of the cycling season. Well, it's been a season beset by bad weather and today is no different. Certainly in Italy, the mist, the rain, the cloud and all the mystique that...
Van dat prachtige meer, een van de grote meren in Noord-Italië waar het altijd een paar graden warmer is. Goed ook voor de wijnproductie, ingesloten tussen en onder, bijna figuurlijk uiteraard, de bergketens, de mooie natuur in en rond en rondom het Como-meer. Ook wel mooie plaatjes natuurlijk. In Bellagio bijvoorbeeld, daar komen we straks langs. Mooie villa's voor de rijkere Italianen die hier huizen. Zo herinneren we ons dat een aantal Nederlanders van Milan, AC Milan destijds, hier ook wel woonden aan het Como-meer. Heel veel watersport, vanochtend ook nog rond. Voilà, al dus Joaquim Rodríguez, kort samengevat, die zei dat het een zware week is geweest na dat wereldkampioenschap. Heeft hij de verkenning moeten doen in zijn uitrusting van Movistar. Wel, Rui Costa, die zei dat deze trui zijn leven gaat veranderen. Daar is hij zeker van. Gisteren 27 geworden en zo vertrokken ze vanochtend om 11 uur in Bergamo. 1 minuut stilte gehouden voor de start en dat was om de vele slachtoffers te gedenken van de bootramp in Lampedusa. Dat gebeurt vandaag in heel Italië. Over een 300-tal sportwedstrijden heeft men dat beslist om collectief een minuut te...
But there he was, and he rolled off with the rest of his colleagues. And it was always going to be a big break to get into. Attack straight away, but I can tell you the first of many breaks.
L'ha già vista. Roma è stata seconda volta, Napoli, Sicilia.
Ze zijn er, papa.
Roma 3 volte. Lamerte, Ghisallo, Grande, Alpassini, de top. staan in de fin. Ik denk was er erbij, Kazan. De wereldkampioen, dat kunnen we zien. Dat Ghisallo, ja. Het komt er van huis. Oeh, bent er net zo los, hè?
Hey, pas op, oei, oei. Ja, top, zit weer. Knies. Hier, van de dinges.
Dit is de laatste van, hè?
Van de kaart hier. Hij is aan.
Dat is aan?
Hier is aan, ja. Hier is Thomas de hand. Hey Thomas!
Thomas! Ik zeg goed nacht in huis. Hè? Ik zeg goed nacht in huis.
Hier.
Dit is het.
Het zijn vrienden hier zo.
Hè? En toen aan het branden. Hij gaat niet. Maar la carne. Maar la carne.
Die 80 meter die ik er dan bij doe is misschien voor velen er te veel aan.
Val in het peloton.
Ja.
Met een man van Lotto die er ook bij is. We zien een jongen van Sky erbij. Dat is Sergio Henao die daar ligt. Man van Euskaltel die recht geholpen wordt. Van I Am Cycling is er ook bij. Rachenbach.
Ja, een beetje
vorige woensdag nog goed in Milaan-Turijn.
Radio Shack nog een deel mannen erbij.
Van
dus
Lotto, hier Dox die daar recht staat, denk ik.
Ja, toch wel wil te zeggen dat er misschien straks in het peloton het tempo er iets minder zal in zijn. Vooral omdat na die valpartij men toch gaat de schade een klein beetje beperken of bekijken, moet ik zeggen. Hier gaan we een beeld zien van die valpartij.
Gebeurt net voor die bocht naar links, waar jongens naar binnen willen komen of misschien naar binnen willen wippen, omdat er een wegversmalling is. Je komt door het centrum echt wel van zo'n typisch Italiaans pittoresk dorpje. Op de hoek een patisseria, maar daar hebben deze mannen absoluut geen tijd voor gehad.
Nee, dat is eigenlijk een beetje te laat dat ze daaraan begonnen zijn. Is dat hier Wening achteraan?
Man van Orica, de grote man.
Aanduidt met fluo-geel zal ik maar zeggen, als misschien iemand. En
is dat Nibali? Nibali ligt erbij, inderdaad. Vincenzo Nibali. Oh, een van de topfavorieten toch wel voor vandaag. Op revanche belust na dat WK van vorige week, die 4e plaats. En aan zijn hinkstapje,
maak er maar
zijn collega, en dat is de Italiaanse kampioen.
Is Tiralongo die er ook bij staat, denk ik.
En die houdt die linkerschouder toch op een manier vast waarvan je moet zeggen of waaruit je moet afleiden dat het niet goed is. Pakt ook naar de ribben.
Nou ja, dat is boeken toe, dat is over en out. Dus laten we maar zeggen een slecht seizoeneinde voor Nibali.
Dat is niet leuk.
Ronde van Spanje, net op een counter gelopen daar van Horner tweede. Dan 2 keer 2 valpartijen in het voorbije WK. Net niet.
De geraakt zagen we aan de linkerkant. Hè. Meteen de ziekenwagen erbij. Stapt wellicht in de auto van de ploegleider bij Astana. En hij had er nog wel zoveel zin in. Echt op vakantie gaan, nee, dat ga ik niet doen, zegt hij. Want mijn vrouw moet thuis nog werken. Dus ik kan niet ver weg, zei hij in La Gazzetta. Maar gewoon een beetje vieren, op café gaan met vrienden.
Dopo che c'era stato già un colpo di scena che era l'abbandono
di Michele Scarponi, però per condizioni fisiche non al top. Michele Scarponi ha avuto qualche problema gastrico già ieri e poi ha dovuto abbandonare oggi. Silvio,
un altro dei favoriti in difficoltà, Rigoberto Urán. Vedete qui i corridori hanno già iniziato la salita che porta verso il muro di Sormano. I primi chilometri di questa salita abbastanza pedalabili, gli ultimi invece durissimi, ed è proprio in questo tratto che si crea una selezione importante dove corridori anche favoriti quest'oggi.
Van de Colma die Sormano met dus als toetje 2 kilometer de Muro.
Dit is de aanloop.
Voilà.
Dat is de aanloop die ze laten zien. Dat is 5 kilometer 1 en strak pas komt.
Altre 3 persone sono state salvate, giovani. Come commerciale di Nairobi, catturato in Libia da Navy Seals, l'ideatore degli attentati alle ambasciate americane di Nairobi e Dar es Salaam nel 1900.
Of zoiets.
Prachtig beeld. Stapelwolken die zich verdelen over het gebergte van Sormano. Daar ligt dat kleine dorpje. Absoluut.
Dat is het belangrijkste. Heb je dan nog iets
Heel
dat
zwaar.
leeft?
Want dit is eigenlijk, en ik ga jouw woorden niet wegnemen of het gras voor de voeten wegmaaien, maar toen we gisteren samen...
En 11 kilometer lang, de eerste bijvoorbeeld, de Valcana. 11 kilometer lang deze met een aanloop.
Het Visconti, de grote jongens komen naar voren.
Maar zo zagen we er ook op links zitten. Hier een van de wielertoeristen, die gewoon in de weg rijdt voorlopig. En kijkt hier. Kom niet.
Amici, gruppo compatto che sta per iniziare il muro di Sormano. Gruppo compatto, gruppo compatto. Gruppo compatto che sta per...
De wereldkampioen, Geesink.
Saxo Bank deze week toch wel in de media, in het nieuws. Loonsverlaging voor de grote AC, Alberto Contador. Sprak vorig weekend ook nog met een Deense collega. En die zei dat het wel een hot item is in Denemarken. Contador en zijn grote loon, meer dan 3 miljoen euro per jaar. En als je dan zijn Spaanse metgezellen eigenlijk zou meerekenen en zij zouden Team Saxo verlaten, dan heb je eigenlijk de nodige loonkut, eigenlijk, zoals je het zou kunnen zeggen. Om een woord te gebruiken van Engels en Nederlands door elkaar.
Ik dacht het al, ja.
Dan kom je aan een 4-5 miljoen euro en dat is wat zij missen bij Team Saxo na het afhaken van een sponsor Tinkoff. We hebben een gemiddelde van onder de 40 km per uur, bijna 40 na 4 uur wedstrijd.
Maar laat ons maar zeggen dat is onder de 40, maar dat is snel, hè.
Alsjeblieft, op dit parcours is dat hard doorgereden met die Valcava. Dan zijn we toch richting de 1300 meter gegaan. Hier op die Muro. Kijk eens naar boven. Kruipen. Nee, dat woord ga ik nog niet gebruiken. Maar je ziet op links Quintana en Valverde en Ivan Basso.
En ook Daniel Martin.
Die zich daar goed voelen.
Ja, ja.
Stijl hoor, kijk eens. Hier staan de mensen te kijken.
Het is Rogers op kop.
Niet in grote getalen. Hier ziet u dat mooi, dames en heren, in beeld. 886 meter. Enkele meters verder 887. Kan u zich voorstellen hoe geweldig stijl dit is.
Wel ja, dan gaat straks, hoe steiler het wordt, hoe dichter die cijfers bij elkaar. De afstand daartussen wordt en als je het nog niet zou voelen aan de benen, dan kun je het op die manier zelf bekijken.
FDG met Thibaut Pinot. Pinot daar volledig in het blauw, net voor de wereldkampioen. Moeilijk jaar gehad, veel te veel druk in die ronde van Frankrijk. Men verwachtte daar, want dat was een uitspraak van Christian Prudhomme, de grote tourbaas. Peut-être, misschien dat hij wel alles een winnaar zou kunnen zijn voor
ja,
jaar top 10.
Dat is dan vooral in de afdalingen ferm tegengevallen. Maar heeft zich dan wel heel goed herpakt nadien in de ronde van Spanje, in de Vuelta. Waar hij goed meedeed naar het einde toe. Zelfs de afdalingen zeker niet ging leiden, maar daar toch geen tijd ging verliezen. En dan was het op zich eigenlijk al goed. Thibaut Pinot, die eigenlijk ook rijlessen gekregen heeft van op een autocircuit om aan snelheid te gewinnen.
Ja, absoluut. Heeft hij gedaan na de Ronde van Frankrijk.
En dat blijkt op een of andere manier toch wel geleid hebben tot minder schrik, betere afdalingen nemen. Misschien zou ik zeggen, moeten ze daar ook eens met Wiggins naartoe gaan, alhoewel dat een ander probleem is, denk ik.
Dat laat ik over aan jou. Maar ik vind het wel knap voor zo'n jonge kerel als Thibaut Pinot, dat hij dat ook in de media brengt. Dat hij gewoon hulp heeft gezocht om aan zijn dalerscapaciteiten tussen aanhalingstekens, om die te verbeteren. Dat was knap van zo'n Pinot, want je zou dat ook onder de mat kunnen vegen, want niemand pakt graag uit met dingen die hij minder goed kan. En dat heeft deze jongen wel gedaan. Chapeau.
Moeten we toch zien nu op deze beklimming, dat is nu een heel steile beklimming, maar ze durven ze niet echt gebruiken. Want bovenkomend 82 kilometer. Dus waar rij je naartoe als je boven komt? Uiteraard terug naar beneden. Ja. En dan, omkijkend, hoeveel knechten hebben we hier nog, hoeveel ploegmakkers hebben wij, moeten wij nu de wedstrijd gaan controleren. We zullen het maar op deze manier doen.
Eigenlijk kan je zeggen dat de koers hier begint, boven op de top van de Muro. Maar dan heb je, zoals je zegt, een lange afdaling naar de Ghisallo, op weg naar de volgende col.
Ja, en dat is er dan weer eentje die kan tellen. In 2 delen, met een vlakker stuk ertussen, maar dan je opeenstapeling van. En dan pas kom je helemaal naar het einde toe. 9,5 kilometer van het eind heb je de top van de laatste beklimming. En daar worden dan nog eens de prijzen gedeeld, de kaarten geschud. Als je nog troeven hebt.
Kruip eens even in het hoofd van een organisator. We zitten hier met deze speciale klim op 82 kilometer van de streep, ver. Dus hier gaat nooit niemand...
Ik kan niet in het hoofd kruipen van deze organisator, want die is voorlopig aan de kant gezet.
Ja, want men zegt dat hij geld zou verduisterd hebben. Aquarone, de baas van de organisatie, die aan het nadien nog 1 Nederlandse winnaar gehad. Hè? Man die hij zeer goed kent. Voilà.
Ja, was ik bij een groot gevecht met Baron Kelly.
81 was dat.
Een paar jaar later had hij Van der Poel tweede, maar net niet.
Het feit dat Nairo Quintana hier al op kop rijdt op die Muro, is dat gewoon tempo maken? Is dat kaarten op tafel leggen en zeggen, jongens, vandaag is het voor Valverde en misschien in mindere mate voor Visconti?
Goh ja, normaal gezien, ik denk als ze de kaart kunnen trekken dat ze zeker Valverde gaan spelen. Hè. Dus,
stel je voor,
ja.
Valverde die hier wint na zo'n veelbesproken actie in de laatste kilometers van het WK afgelopen zondag.
Ja, maar dat is een actie die kan je bekijken van alle kanten. Als je die bekijkt vanuit het kamp van Valverde, de man die daar in 3e positie zit trouwens. 4e positie moet ik eigenlijk zeggen. Ja, je kan ook de kant van Rodríguez bekijken. Dat staat dan, ja. En op links zien we daar de kleine man Pozzo Vivo, dan toch. Dus ik bedoel maar, ja, je kan het eigenlijk een beetje van alle kanten bekijken. Rodríguez had ook de kaart van Valverde in de tank. Durft Rui Costa niet volgen. En komt Valverde uit die rechtse bocht naar de aankomstlijn toe al op de...
Non lo so. Mica, sono tutti assieme. Vai Quintana! Quintana! Vai! Vai! Vai Visconti! Quintana, sono tutti assieme. Vai Leclerc! Vai Ulisse! Vai Diego! Diego! Back!
Sormano, Purito
daar
hebben we
in
gezien.
principe ook aan Quintana hier. Die voelt zich thuis, hè. Dat is zijn speeltuin. Hè. Dat is zijn speeltuin.
4,25% bepaalde stukken. Saxo met nog 1 man. Hier is Rodríguez, Santoromita. We hebben Pelizzotti. Pelizzotti die naar
Tapuma.
Astana gaat
Moreno.
volgend jaar. En Visconti gaat ook nog mee en dan valt er een gaatje. Hier is Monfort. Nee, Monfort komt er. Hier is Ben Hermans. Ben Hermans door het beeld. Veuclair wil hier vandaag scoren. Bart de Klerk, eerste man van... Vandaag onder leiding van Bramati.
De wereldkampioen die dan toch de tol moeten betalen heeft van, van een weekje vieren. Hè.
Ja, hij is
toch
niet
wel
naar
ergens.
Portugal gegaan. Hij is
Ja,
niet
maar
naar Portugal. Hier Jelle van Endert, die wil er nog iets van maken.
Als ik moet naasten, Tom Dumoulin.
Dumoulin contract
Van Avermaat, Bakelans, samen. Hebben wij Gilbert al gezien? Hier is Gilbert.
Hier is Gilbert met de bandjes van de wereldkamp met Contador naast zich. Voilà, zo naar boven.
Dat is niet goed genoeg. Dan heb je daar zoveel werk en tijd in gestoken. Ten Dam.
Lau. Heb jij Scarponi door het beeld? Zo'n uitslag, hier is Wening. Dat zijn de mannen die in vorm zijn. Dat ligt niet zo'n uitslag.
Wening wel betrokken in die valpartij. Serge Pauwels hier.
Pauwels, goed WK gereden.
Matthias Frank.
Al...
Kom aan, hè. Kom aan. Bressel. Bressel. Kom aan. Allez, Burkhardt! Hier is een Colombiaan.
Non ho capito. Tutta rossa, sì. Dai.
Hier. Allez, Sturzen! Kom aan.
Sta passando giù.
Ballen maken. Kom aan. Kom aan.
Dai che finita, dai!
Kom op, hè. Nog zo. Hey, Gibeldia, kom aan. Hey, kom aan. Hey, kom aan.
Dai che finita, dai.
Kom aan, hè.
Dai che finita. Dai.
Hey, kom aan. Hey. Kom aan, hè. Hey, kom aan. Kom aan, hè.
Via. Dai jongens.
Is relatief klein. En wat zien we hier in een herhaling? Een jongen van Team Colombia die zetjes krijgt. En wat gebeurt daar dan?
Most natural climber in the bunch, the winner of the King of the Mountains at the Tour de France, of course, podium placement in France this year. He set the tone for the climb and has since set the tone on the descent as well, alongside Alejandro Valverde.
Stringendo i denti ce l'ha fatta rientrare, tornare sotto, aveva perso solo 35 secondi, mentre Contador ne aveva persi 55 su questa scalata, quindi inferiore alle attese ancora una volta purtroppo il nostro amico Alberto Contador.
Cioè il Muro di Sormano ha fatto una prima scrematura su chi c'è e chi non c'è per il finale. Adesso però andiamo subito in diretta ad Andrea De Luca, caduta in discesa.
Zevende ronde van Lombardije. Het is gewoon een prachtige streek. Het merengebied in Noord-Italië. Dit is de zwaarste klim, daarna de selectie en de beslissing. Kijk eens hoe mooi beeld.
Volgens mij niet echt in de buurt zijn valpartij hier.
Oh, tegen het muurtje.
Ja, Jam Cycling. Ja.
Goed geraakt. Dat is Jonathan Fumeau, de Zwitser. IM Cycling dat goede aankopen heeft gedaan. Sylvain Chavanel rijdt vandaag zijn laatste koers voor Omega Pharma Quickstep. En zo zijn er wel nog een aantal jongens bij het team van Lefevre die afscheid nemen.
Dat gaat nu eenmaal zo. Ik denk dat ze bij Lefevre neer blij zijn geweest met Chavanel.
Kling blijft liggen. Fumeau. Tegen die muur van rotswand eigenlijk.
Onze oproep heeft.
Dan is die kilometer van de streep toch een interessante situatie. En hier al de beslissing, misschien voorzichtig blijven. Nou, erg voor deze jongen, maar dit is op dit ogenblik
ook niet bij BMC blijft.
Volgende
valpartij
van Androni Giocattoli. Ja, dit is geen ongevaarlijke afdaling, dat weten ze allemaal natuurlijk.
Ja,
met dat mooie zwarte asfalt.
Ja, komt daarbij dat renners uiteraard proberen terugkomen. Hè. Renners die gelost zijn proberen toch risico te nemen om die renners die voorop rijdt, voor hun rijdt of dat groepje, om daar terug bij te komen in de hoop van ik ga toch achterstand proberen goed maken en dan ga je er los over, dan ga je te ver. Nog een gelukssnelheden hier niet te hoog. Het is niet zo dat je hier alles loslaat en vol die afdaling kunt pakken. Je moet hier toch vooral door de omstandigheden, door het natte wegdek toch relatief voorzichtig zijn.
Afdaling. En ja, ik zou de ziekenwagen misschien ietsje meer rechtgezet hebben langs het muurtje heen. Ja.
Mensen die de renners aanmanen om voorzichtig te zijn, maar dat zullen ze ondertussen wel zijn uiteraard.
Voorsprong van het vijftal, 50 seconden toch al wordt nu gemeld voor Quintana, Valverde, Caruso.
Facchini, de man die...
Facchini inderdaad.
Die op de grond ligt. Of die men gaat...
Andrea,
stavo raccontando dei brutti momenti
non ti abbiamo sentito.
Brutti momenti abbiamo passato. Niente? Pronto? Brutti momenti abbiamo passato negli ultimi tornanti della discesa della colma di Sormano. È praticamente una caduta di Patrick Facchini che è rimasto a terra, cosciente, ma era immobile a terra per svariati minuti, tra l'altro in una bruttissima posizione. La macchina della giuria per fortuna si è messa da scudo per proteggere il corridore e poi l'abbiamo lasciato quando era già con l'assistenza dei sanitari e lui comunque, ripetiamo, era cosciente. Visconti ha ripreso la bicicletta e ha ripreso la corsa quindi ed è in compagnia di Henao e Damiano Cunego, però molto lontani dalla testa della corsa. Noi adesso con la motocronaca stiamo proprio risalendo i vari gruppi, abbiamo appena superato un gruppo con dentro Vizioso e adesso ci riportiamo sul gruppo dei primi. A voi la linea.
Grazie ad Andrea, 64 km e spiccioli per questo Giro di Lombardia che si annuncia vincente. Questa è la caduta che noi stiamo vedendo, appunto quella di Fumeau della squadra della Jams numero 113, Jonathan Fumeau. Silvio, ci segnalava Andrea De Luca che il manto stradale, l'asfalto, insomma chiaramente bagnato, qualche foglia, stanno creando tutte queste cadute. Queste sono le cadute del numero 23 Facchini. Questo che ci segnalava sì. Patrick Facchini dell'Androni Giocattoli.
Ma
prego.
ci ricordiamo ancora tutti, credo, quanto avvenne anche nel 2000 2011, la caduta di Alessandro Ballan che fu spettacolare proprio in questi tratti. Anche Paolini cade nel 2011, come ci suggerisce il nostro coordinatore Auro Pulbarelli dalla regia, quindi è un tratto particolarmente insidioso che quando c'è la strada bagnata naturalmente diventa ancora più difficile da
Queste invece sono le immagini che vi arrivano proprio dal traguardo. Noi ci troviamo in una postazione privilegiata, siamo proprio con questa piattaforma sul lago molto romantica, concedetecelo questo. Sta piovendo alle nostre spalle, quindi il meteo Beppe non cambia. Tra l'altro questo non fa freddo, quindi in qualche modo si asciuga a metà l'asfalto.
Sì, chiudiamo la stagione meglio di come l'abbiamo cominciata a Sanremo, certamente, ma va detto che però i nostri giocatori hanno anche sfortuna, perché non è che non sappiano andare in bicicletta, però guarda il mondiale, queste cadute che lo hanno condizionato, guarda adesso Nibali che cade, Scarponi che si deve ritirare, Visconti che va di nuovo a terra. È un peccato, veramente un peccato, perché appunto non è che loro non sanno andare in bici rispetto agli stranieri.
63 km e qualche spicciolo mentre vediamo Enrico Gasparotto togliersi la mantellina, la telecronaca, Francesco Pancani e Davide Cassani. Ci vediamo qui dopo per le interviste. A voi ragazzi.
Grazie ad Alessandra De Stefano. Dal Tirreno Adriatico alla Sanremo, dal Giro d'Italia alla Mondiale di Firenze, giusto una settimana fa. Freddo, neve, maltempo per tutta la stagione, anche per l'ultima grande classica, l'ultima classica monumento del 2013, una giornata di pioggia. Questi sono i 5 battistrada, mancano 63 km alla conclusione. C'è stato in discesa dopo il Muro di Sormano l'attacco di due della Movistar, Nairo Quintana e Alejandro Valverde. Hanno guadagnato un vantaggio massimo di una quindicina di secondi prima di essere ripresi da 3 italiani. Insieme a loro infatti adesso troviamo Enrico Gasparotto della Astana, Ivan Santaromita della BMC, eccolo qua Enrico Gasparotto che getta via il sacchetto del rifornimento, e Giampaolo Caruso della Catiuscia. Poi la situazione completa al termine della discesa dopo il Muro di Sormano. Alle spalle di questi 5, segnalati con un ritardo di 50 secondi, c'è il gruppo composto da 25 corridori. A 1:10 la coppia formata da Ulissi e Pozzovivo, a 1:45 il gruppo con dentro Contador e Gilbert, a 2 minuti e 30 il gruppo con Henao, Cunego e Visconti, che si è rialzato dopo la caduta che ci ha appena raccontato Andrea De Luca.
Non c'è molto accordo tra gli uomini al comando, naturalmente i più generosi sono i 2 corridori della Movistar. Abbiamo visto Quintana, adesso Valverde. A differenza del mondiale, oggi i corridori hanno la radiolina, quindi la possibilità di parlare con l'ammiraglia. Questo invece è il gruppo inseguitore, con Vauclair, maglia verde la sua. C'è anche Maika, 62 km all'arrivo.
Sulla sinistra i 5 battistrada, sulla destra, schermo sdoppiato, invece i più immediati inseguitori. Sono in 25 che avevano all'ultimo rilevamento cronometrico 50 secondi di ritardo da Caruso, Santaromita, Gasparotto, Valverde e Quintana. Questi sono i 5 uomini al comando e si sta andando adesso verso Bellagio, dove comincerà la salita verso la Madonna del Ghisallo.
Ancora 7 km pianeggianti e poi la salita, il Ghisallo che di chilometri ne misura 8,5.
E non sarà quella l'ultima difficoltà altimetrica della giornata. Intanto l'inquadratura è per Thomas Vauclair della Europcar, perché nel finale ci sarà questo strappo che ha una storia recente ciclisticamente parlando, lo strappo di Villa Vergano, una salita divisa in 2, la prima parte verso Ello e poi la cosiddetta salita dell'Alpino.
È lì il tratto più difficile, pendenze che arrivano al 15%. Da quando c'è Villa Vergano in Lombardia si è deciso lì 2 anni fa la vittoria di Zaug, l'anno scorso il volo solitario di Joaquim Rodríguez.
Intanto qua la grande azione di Thomas Vauclair, perché in pochissimi minuti è riuscito a riportarsi sui 5 uomini, dunque adesso davanti sono in 6 e questa è una presenza importante, un reinserimento importante quello di Thomas Vauclair.
Non c'è molto accordo davanti, non c'è molto accordo dietro, nonostante questo il gruppo inseguitore sta tirando con un ritardo di 100 metri.
Eccole qua, adesso questa immagine ci chiarisce tutto, non dobbiamo più neanche parlare in termini di secondi ma di metri, perché in pratica stavano spuntando gli inseguitori alle spalle dei battistrada. Dunque la situazione cambia nuovamente, perché in testa alla corsa si ricompatta dunque adesso un gruppo con 30 corridori, mentre Contador e Gilbert, per non perdere d'occhio gli altri possibili protagonisti di oggi, Contador e Gilbert fanno parte di un altro gruppo che ora è segnalato a 58 secondi di ritardo. Ha parlato via radio con la
August now to late September. This race has actually moved forward in the last year or so, and you know, it's a great race to finish the season off, but now the globalization of world cycling means that after this race we've got Beijing, and all of a sudden we're into next year already with January with the Tour Down Under. This was the catch. There was 5 riders in front. The 5 riders were Caruso from the team of Perito Rodríguez, that's Katusha, Santa Rita, BMC, the Italian champion, Gasparotto, Astana, Quintana and Valverde of Movistar. And it was that man that pulls so many faces all season long, and that's Tommy Voeckler of Europcar. Caught them on just after the descent, and now on the attack on his own. But we have been over most of the major climbs of today. 2 climbs still to come, and that includes the Madonna del Ghisallo, which is coming up very soon.
Madonna del Ghisallo is, of course, a great museum of cycling as well. It is one of the big historic climbs in this part of the region. We saw the Muro di Sormano, and that was really the first of cycling's great expeditions into hellish climbs, if you like. Those big climbs like the Zoncolan in the other part of the country, just the other side of the Dolomites, of course. And that started cycling's love affair, if you will, in rather sordid a way, really, with those ridiculously steep climbs. We've seen it brought back 12 months ago. Hadn't been used since 1962 until 2012. Rodríguez was the main man up it last year. Remember, Gilbert crashed on the way down it 12 months ago, as you reminded me just before we came on air. That is more or less out the way now, but Ghisallo to come, you say. And what about perhaps this race again being decided on the new final climb, Villa Vergano?
Well, that's over the last couple of years. That's where Zalg and Rodríguez made their moves to win the events in the consecutive years there. But I tell you what, over the last 8 years, there have been a lot of riders doubling up. Paolo Bettino, Cunego, and this could be the year of Rodríguez. He is in the group behind, and he stands a very good chance of winning back-to-back races.
Welcome back, everybody. The race of the falling leaves, La Corsa delle Foglie Morte, 57.7 kilometers to go, and the site of the brand new world champion Rui Costa of Movistar, racing with Alejandro Valverde today. And there's a nasty little angry reaction in Spain to a photo that was published on Twitter earlier on this week. I think it was yesterday. There was a coffee ride, and right at the top of Ghisallo there's a little cafe as well. And the guy just stopped for coffee there. Movistar guys riding together who last week were, let's say, supposed to be enemies at the World Championships. Didn't quite work out that way, and I know that Perito Rodríguez and Vincenzo Nibali, a couple of those involved, weren't happy with how the finale played out at the end of an epic race in Florence. And of course Rui Costa sitting next to Valverde's teammate, all smiles, all happy, like they would be on a training ride, as we see Marcel Wies having a little slip off. He just attacked a moment ago. A man who said he's dreamed of winning this race. It is the race he grew up watching and dreaming of as a cyclist. You can see the injury to his left thigh. The latest in a long line of men who have crashed today. We've seen, unfortunately, Jonathan Fumeau of I Am Cycling as well, and Facchini of Androni, both being put into ambulances in the last 15 minutes or so. Good news for Wies is that he's back on his bike, but that will surely knock his confidence, Brian.
No, definitely. You get far into a race like this and you crash in one of the corners. Obviously trying to get to the front of this race. He was on the attack, so taking a few risks, and sometimes we take these risks that, you know, comes back and bites you, and it has done for Marcel Wies. And Weiss has been showing some good form over the last few weeks, especially in the Tour of Britain. He was up there and showing some good form, but unfortunately for him, he just went into that corner a bit too fast, slid out. As we can see, the weather here for Lombardia is not the best. We have got kind of slight drizzles of rain pretty much all day today, and that's where it's sometimes difficult to judge it, because there are dry patches, there are wet patches, and we've seen quite a few riders come to grief on the descent of the Sormano, as we see the group, general regroupment, probably about almost 40 riders now at the front of this race. So they will look around, see what teammates they have, see who have got numbers, and then they'll decide how they're going to plan the following 55 kilometres.
Well, for those who might have dropped out the back, at least it's scenic. It is a beautiful part of the world around here, the region of Lombardy, which this is the race just to the north of Milan, around Lake Como, finishing. I used to finish in Como itself, as you see at the back of the peloton.
I was interested to know, Rob, that on the Sormano, that it was in fact Saxo Tinkoff leading Contador up there, and Nicholas Roach and Michael Rogers were used in that. Mike was up towards the front, and Mike had a good performance in the week in Milano-Torino. So obviously they've got options. They want to try and push it, but towards the top in the steeper parts, it was in fact Movistar that came to the front with Quintana. So into the penultimate of the climbs, that's the Ghisallo, and we have got a climb towards the finish, same as the last couple of years. Very steep climb, and that's where the race has been won and lost. We said just before the break that normally if you win this race it comes in twos. We go back to Bettini, we've got Cunego, we've got
Cunego's won it 3 times as well.
Gilbert, so you know, the world champion is towards the front. He looked very good in the Sormano. As I say, Marcel, we still having problems with these bikes. So again on the attack now behind the main group as we hit this climb. So this climb isn't so bad, but you got to remember that race of this distance, it does start to bite the legs.
It's certainly going to be hard now for Marcel Weiss. Will have taken something at the legs and the confidence.
I tell you what, Vaucler's got 1:32. They haven't shown him yet, so he is still in front of this race. This is Group 1. This is the main peloton, about 40 riders. We're just catching Marcel Weiss, but again, nobody really looking at controlling the peloton here.
Markus Berghardt there on your screen, German rider riding for BMC, and it's a big day for BMC today. Marco Pinotti puts the end to his career. He'll be going to work for them. You said we hadn't seen Thomas Vauclair yet, and here he is, 1:32 ahead. Always an extremely dangerous man, whether he's pulling his tongue, shouting away, making faces, or just simply battling like he does. You've got to keep an eye on this man.
Yeah, you never know what sort of form he's in. When he's on good form, he is really on some good form, and has proven in the past that he does some great performances. But again, on his own, with just under 55 kilometres to go, we have been over the hardest climb. The Ghisallo is not so bad, but again, after this distance, it does bite the legs, and a lot of riders just trying to save as much as they can for this final climb. There is a general regroupment now, and the numbers coming to the front. You can see Katusha taking it up. They have got about 3 or 4 riders in this front group, including Rodríguez, who won it last year in the thunderstorms, and they have got Danny Marino also in this group.
You mentioned Alberto Contador. He lost 30 seconds up Sormano, but you could see his inimitable style just pedalling up towards the front there. Now the Madonna del Ghisallo climbs up, maximum 14%, 12% towards the end. As Brian said, there's a nice little bit of a false flat in the middle. Goes up from Bellagio, famous, beautiful place by the lake, up to the Madonna del Ghisallo itself. 500 metres of climbing. That's around 8 kilometres. And this is Thomas Vauclair, who next year, Brian, might well be riding the World Tour.
Yeah, it looks very much like that, and good luck to them. They have got a very good team, and I think they're looking at taking on some more riders. So you can just see 2 minutes back, and the thumbs up for Tommy Vauclair.
He's great. He's old school, isn't he? Didn't even look across. Just a nonchalant little acknowledgement there of what happened. And Thomas Vauclair will continue in his own style, and we love him for it. As Alberto Contador looks as though he's at the front, followed by Purito Rodríguez and the rest of the Katusha team. Basso still there pedaling away as well, heating up to be a very interesting race. 2 minutes 20 for Thomas Vauclair. Peloton on the way up to the Madonna del Ghisallo. You're watching the 107th Giro di Lombardia. Talked briefly before a couple of crashes occurred that they'd had this little bit of argy-bargy between Valverde and Rui Costa, and of course Joaquim Rodríguez as well. Certainly interesting to see any of the war wounds from the World Championships have been healed. Vincenzo Nibali was the man who was really up for it today. He said he's going to start in Argentina nice and early again next year. His wife's heavily pregnant, so he's not going to be going on holiday anywhere. But unfortunately, with the looks of the crash, he might not be able to go on holiday anyway. Looked to be limping quite badly. Let's hope that he can have a speedy recovery and enjoy time away from road biking. He says he wants to do some mountain biking in winter. I think it was a nod and a wink to his sponsors to send him a mountain bike over. That is Thomas Vauclair take some food. Maybe you wanted a different flavour.
It's one of these situations where goes on the attack without thinking. He does a lot of these things in races where just spur of the moment goes on the attack and just throws that away. He doesn't like that flavour and goes for another flavour. He hasn't planned this attack. It just happens. Sometimes this happens in bike racing where you feel good and he went on the attack. Unfortunately, he's on his own. Still a long way to go to the finish, and taking a bit of coke there, and then just afterwards getting a gel as we see Cunego coming back, and he has been in the attacks already today. And they've got a very good team with...
they had a good team, I would have said.
Potential winners in there. Scarpone obviously not in the race anymore, but they've still got Diego Ulisse, who won Milano Torino during the week, so showing some good form. We haven't caught a sight of him in this main group. There's about 40 riders left. I think we can see possibly a pink jersey, but we'll wait till we get the camera confirmation of that.
Well, we've had sightings of Matteo Bono and Daniele Piertopolli so far today, but nothing as far as Ulisse's been concerned, the man who tasted that semi-classic victory this week on the slopes of Superga, just outside of Turin. Scarpone retiring through a stomach bug. And of course, Spanish champion Herrada a little further far behind. Broomwagon almost close to sweeping him up. Now then, MTN Quebecer riding for Africa, riding for their charity Quebecer. And Jacques Janse van Rensburg, the South African rider, doing his best to stay just ahead of the Broomwagon as well. It's that sort of race where there's a bit more temptation than in other races, like the Worlds was last week with that epic, horrible weather, and a lot of criticism for the British riders for getting off rather early in some people's eyes. I don't think the gripe was about not winning. I think a lot of people criticised the British team for getting off en masse early on into the race. And with these end-of-season races, the airport's so close down the road in Malpensa, there's surely a big temptation to climb off when things aren't going your way.
Yeah, it's all about motivation, but you get paid to ride from the start of the season all the way through to the end of the season, so it's very important. Yeah, it was disappointing, the British team, but I'm going to just leave it up to the coaches and managers to sort that out themselves. Obviously, as a Brit, it was very disappointing, especially over the last 2 years when you've won the Tour de France with Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome, and now you had nobody in contention. Hats off to Italy. They really took the race to everybody. Okay, they failed in the end by not claiming a medal, and it was all about Costa, Rui Costa and Valverde.
Now, what's your take on
Rodríguez. Yeah, it's going to be obviously a difficult one. It has happened in the past with different teams, especially the Italian team, that haven't kind of gelled well together. And there has been a history in the past with Valverde. He wants to be obviously the number one. And
ask Oscar Freire from 12 months ago.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you've got 2 or 3 winners in that team. You have to gel them all together. When they ride for rival teams, it's very difficult. When it comes into the World Championships, to all ride as a team. Probably the best team that I've ridden in recent years was when Mark Cavendish won in Copenhagen, when the whole British team rode from start to finish. Okay, it was an easier circuit. That was a very difficult circuit to do that. We've seen Italy try to do this on so many occasions in the past in the World Championships and failed. And it was having 2 Spanish riders towards the front with Rodríguez and Valverde. You would have thought that they would have won, but Valverde made a huge mistake. And just looking at Nibali, towards the end, allowing Rui Costa to go, thinking possibly of just getting that silver medal. I don't think for once Valverde thought that Rui Costa would get across to Rodríguez. He thought maybe the race is already won, but that was a huge mistake.
Philippe Gilbert, winner of this race 2 years in a row, a couple of years ago, and of course the second year that he did win it was at the end of that absolutely magnificent year, the peak of his career, and one that will no doubt probably not be matched. Now then, Katusha. Eyes on them throughout the day here.
This is Gusev here. I think he is being distanced now at the back of the this group. Can't see, because he was distanced also on the Sormano. That was Gusev, the rider in the Katusha colours of red and white. But back to the front of this race, come towards 50 kilometres to go, and you get the gurning features of Tommy Voeckler. We see him so many times on the attack in a lot of the big races. He's certainly got a big engine. Maybe not the most popular of riders in the peloton, but for a lot of the Adorning fans he is.
I was going to say there's a massive difference, say a popularity swing, when you put two groups of people, the riders themselves, perhaps those involved in coaching as well and close to the peloton. A lot of people don't like him. Certainly those sitting at home watching on the telly, most of them I would argue do like him. He's a character, and this is Alberto Contador. Now then, a look up the road might tell us he's been distanced, and that is the truth. 51.1 kilometres to go. Contador talking up today as a possibility for him, saying that it was the start, his first race of 2014. Well, dearie me, it looks like 2014 might be like 2013 for him.
I think he's just wishing to get 2013 out the way. You can see him now, he's really struggling. In the World Championships he was struggling as well. So by saying this is the first race of the next season, he's already got his eyes on next season. He just wants to get rid of the 2013. I think he just wants to get rid of this race as well, because he's certainly been really struggling with form. And obviously with the team as well, not really gelled well together. Oleg Tinkov has been obviously in the press, having a go at him, and you know, he has to come up as a leader. If you want to be paid the amount of money that Contador is being paid, then you have to deliver, and it's the same throughout any sport. But I believe that they said in the press that he was willing to take a pay cut to you know, obviously guarantee the future of the team.
Talking of pay cuts, what about that news this week? Tom de Gent, 80% pay cut to take the last spot on the Omega Pharma Quick-Step roster for next season. That's commitment to your job, isn't it? That is a desire to stay in the pro peloton.
Sometimes you have to do these things. As we see Chris Anker Sorensen now being distanced at the back of this main peloton. But
it's like he's done a cleaning up job as well.
Yeah. But again, it's one of these things when you've only got so many spots, and you know, next year there'll be 18 World Tour teams. So what do you want to do? As Thomas de Gent, what is your choice? What's your opportunity? Do you drop down for more money to Continental Pro? Because I'm pretty sure that maybe there's 2 or 3 teams out at the second division team of Continental Pro might have given them the opportunity. Let's not forget, only last year, you know, brilliance in the Giro d'Italia.
He finished on the podium.
Yeah, but this year has not been fruitful for him, and unfortunately it's one of these things. And Vacansoleil now kind of dropping down to second division. So it says to me, taking a pay cut to keep him in World Tour is a chance you take. It's not all about money for a lot of riders. He wants to stay at the top level, and you know, hats off to a rider like Thomas de Gent. He will be good next year and possibly in the year after, but just not had the results this year, unfortunately for him.
Well, talking of Vacansoleil, and a nice little way for them to say goodbye to the pro peloton as they close their doors at the end of the year. Go onto their website and they've got a survey going. You can vote for the team's best moment in their 5 years of activity. We're off for a quick break. We'll see you in a minute. One by one we say goodbye to those who are dropped on the climb. Madonna del Ghisallo, the destination. 48.1 kilometers to go. Final destination, Lecco, via the Villa Vergano climb, 10 kilometers from the finish. That's where we expect the big moves. Or has the big move already been made? Just ask Thomas Voeckler. I know a lot of you will say, no, he never wins. He just does it for show. We shall see. Saxo Tinkoff also dropping off one by one. Matti Wessel struggling at the moment, fighting to get over this climb, maybe find a second win towards the end. There's another team who brought a strong squad for this one.
Yeah, he has really struggled over the last few years. He was always one of these riders that showed really well in the World Championships. Obviously, he wasn't up there in Toscana this year, but again, the rider is on form for me in the World Championships was Joaquim Rodríguez, and that's why we have got two Katusha riders in the red and white at the front of this main group. The other rider that I think that is being looked after by Saxo Tinkoff, and that's Maika, who rode well during the week, and again they are putting their eggs in his basket today. Contador already dropped, as well as many other riders on this climb of the Ghisallo. We still have another climb to come, and that is towards the end. It comes finishes with about 10 kilometers to go to the finish, and that is where the race over the last 2 years has been won and lost. So we'll just have to wait to see if there is any reaction. We can also see, I think it's Cataldo, the Italian rider for Team Sky, also towards the front in the main group, as the gap goes up to 2 minutes and 34 seconds to Tommy Voeckler in front, as we see the support at the side of the road. It's the French colours, but they aren't French.
Dutch flag?
Yes.
It's misleading when they hang it out that way, when it seems that the colours seem to go across, rather like the French tricolour.
Yeah, French colours, but not French.
Voeckler out there in front then. You can see Gasparotto back in the group as well. You mentioned that Cataldo was there for Sky. Now, I wonder if he preempted some bad luck here, because it's Rigoberto Urán's last race with Sky today, and Cataldo's brought some champagne along. He's got it on ice in the bus. The problem is, Rigoberto Urán's nowhere to be seen up there. I think he's already back in the bus and drinking the champagne, isn't he?
Yeah, again, it's all about motivation. Urán had a nasty day off in the World Championships only a week ago. So, again, he was heading for a very good finish and a very good end towards the season. But again, a difficult race for a lot of riders. This is slightly earlier in the year. It's only, what, a couple of weeks earlier from where it traditionally sat. But again, it's one of these races where if you've not got the motivation and you're struggling, there's absolutely no place to hide. But Tommy Voeckler is on his own in front. He has been on the attack over the last 10 kilometres. He has pushed an advantage of just over 2 minutes. The main group of about 40 riders hits this Ghisallo climb, but as we can see, it's being whittled down all the time.
Cunego back by the cars, trying to regain contact.
Three-time winner of this race, so he knows this race like the back of his hand. But again, another rider that hasn't really produced the goods, and Lampre have been doing a few interesting signings as the gap goes up to almost 3 minutes for Tommy Voeckler.
Oh, the most interesting of those signings is the new world champion.
Yep.
Rui Costa, and they've already said that he will be the man to lead at the Tour de France next year. So that means if Scarponi stays, which we're still not sure about, he will go for the Giro d'Italia again, I'm sure. And it will be much the same, but they've been making some interesting signings, as you say. 2 minutes 55 now for Thomas Voeckler, and belief will start to grow. Certainly there's some big names, and there's a lot of firepower still back in the group.
You're talking about Rui Costa. I think it's the last world champion to win the Tour of Lombardy was, I think, 2006. Was it Bettini?
It was Bettini, yeah. The 7th in total, yeah. And he's become the 8th tonight.
If he wins, but it looks as if he's on good enough form. On the Sormano, he was up there towards the front, and Quintana and Valverde pushed on. They went away on the descent. They were joined by Gasparotto, then Caruso from Katusha, and Santa Romita from BMC. The 5 riders came together pretty much at the bottom of the descent of the Sormano. Then it all came together just as it came together. The effervescent Tommy Voeckler went on the attack for Europcar. He has been on the attack for the last 10, almost 15 kilometres now, and he's pushed out an advantage of almost 3 minutes. As we get further up this climb, it starts to get a bit steeper, of about 9.5% towards the top. But again, a good effort by Tommy Voeckler. As we said before, maybe not the most popular rider in the peloton, but certainly respected by a lot of the fans out there.
They love him. On the slopes up the way to Madonna del Ghisallo. Big cycling museum at the top. All of the winners of the Giro d'Italia.
E qua lo so.
museum. The bells toll as the riders go past. A great, beautiful look up to the church itself from Thomas Vauclair. That's destined to go down in preview videos and, of course, reviews of this great race in the future. A salute to its magic, a salute to its history. Now is he going to go on to be the man to add his name into the palmarès? We shall see. The Roll of Honour for 2013 needs a name next to it. The man to throw his hat into the ring from a long way out is Thomas Vauclair. He goes over and past Madonna del Ghisallo. Now descending, the final climb is the one that will wait him 10 kilometres from the end.
That's another nation that were not represented that well towards the front of the race in the World Championships either, and that was France. So maybe Vauclair is trying to have a good end towards the season, and again looking towards that World Tour license for next year. After Euskaltel, the deal with Alonso not happening, Vacansoleil disappearing, and it looks as if Europcar are trying to be that 18th World Tour team. So the door is open for them, because next year I thought maybe IAM would try and look at that by taking on Chavanel. But it doesn't seem to be happening. They haven't obviously applied, not that I know of recently. But it's going to be very interesting to see if Europcar get that final World Tour license, because next year from 19 World Tour teams it will go down to 18 World Tour teams, and then there is a big fight for the wild card places for a lot of the Grand Tours next year.
1 minute 35 and counting. That's the gap. It was almost 3 minutes at the last GPS check. We're going to get the exact time when they cross the top of this Ghisallo climb.
Just looking as the lime green jersey, obviously Peter Sagan has climbed off earlier on today, but it does look as if Ivan Basso is in this front group for the Italian team.
Now, be careful on this descent. We've seen crashes galore on the way down from Muro di Sormano. A couple of crashes very early on during the day as well. We've seen Andy Schleck retire. We saw Peter Sagan unable to last the pace on the first main climb of the day. He's probably on the plane home already now, is Peter. 167 in there for Omega Pharma Quick Step is Peter Seri.
You just see on the far side there, you can see Dan Martin at 1:01, another previous podium finisher in the Lombardia before, and just at the back there also for AG2R they have a couple of riders there. Pozzovivo did look good in the Sormano. Bettencourt still hanging in there, coming back to some form, but only about 25 riders now left at the front, in the front peloton, with Tommy Vauclair on his own at 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
2:49 it is then, as they cross the chapel that is dedicated to the sport of cycling. The sport, the drama, the history, just about everything. This is a special place, and if you're ever in the area, get on your bike, have a ride up, and just take a look at all the history of this race, the Giro d'Italia. This is really one of the heartlands of cycling. Mythical place, a magical race, and there are 42.7 kilometres that remain.
You can just see Visconti there at the back on the left hand side. He has been on the deck already in this race, but he wants it so much. At the start of this race he was an outsider at 33-1, so he stands a very good chance of doing well in this race. I would think that over the Ghisallo now that someone like Visconti would try and go in front, try and chase Vauclair down, and allow the world champion of Rui Costa, Valverde and Quintana just to possibly try and sit back. But this man is setting the race alight. 2.5 minutes he has on that group just going over the top of the Ghisallo, and Tommy Vauclair has just the road in front of him. One more climb and then it will be in towards the finish, but this climb towards the end is very, very steep, and again after 242 kilometres by the finish, but they'll hit it at about 230 kilometres, so very difficult indeed. We see Visconti in the ripped jersey and on his elbow. A few riders have been off today, but a lot of the riders have climbed off. Visconti obviously wants to try and do well in this race today.
Carlos Betancourt running for Agio Mondial. Just looking back in the cars, has enjoyed riding in Italy himself this year. This is a man who enjoyed a great Giro d'Italia as well, but as Brian said, he's been on the deck today. Must be horrible when it's cold, wet and rainy. That's not Valerio Agnoli, by the way. And it's certainly not Astana team. It's Movistar, it's Gio Visconti, and a man, as you said, who's at fairly generous odds for this race, given the fact that he could well be dangerous.
Yeah, he's in a strong Movistar team. They have got numbers. Quintana, Valverde, Rui Costa. Visconti is one of the outsiders that, before, if you can remember last year's race when Rui Costa was on the attack before we hit the final climb. And I was thinking with a strong Movistar team that sort of small group attacking to go away after the Ghisallo. There's an opportunity that Visconti could take the pressure off the rest of them, and if he gets on, he's the sort of rider, if he gets on to that final climb, he could possibly stay away to the finish, thinking that maybe Nibali and Rodríguez would look at each other. But Rodríguez has got the green light now. I think he is still the odds-on favourite for this race now that Nibali has crashed out.
Fermato il gruppo e in questo modo è potuto rientrare Visconti.
Il percorso è particolare, la valcava la salita più dura della corsa ad inizio con solamente 70 km di pianura, poi il Muro di Sormano, il Ghisallo, solo che il Ghisallo è a 46 km dall'arrivo, discesa pianura, abbiamo visto anche 2 anni fa l'azione solitaria di Nibali che è neofregata proprio negli ultimi chilometri, perché qui se ci sono 3 o 4 corridori forti hanno la possibilità di tenere una velocità intorno ai 50 orari e riescono ad andare a prendere il fuggitivo, quindi salite dure, salite selettive, ma sono un po' troppo lontane dal traguardo e quindi tutti, almeno quelli che hanno la possibilità, aspettano Villa Vergano.
Tatticamente sembra un percorso questo che dovrebbe scoraggiare tentativi di attacco appunto prima del Ghisallo. Chiaramente non poteva pensare di fare la differenza su Villa Vergano un uomo come Thomas Voeckler, che ha provato ad anticipare tutti. 2 anni fa, quando scattò questo intanto non è Rodríguez,
non mi sembra Joaquim Rodríguez,
non dovrebbe essere Joaquim Rodríguez questo. 2 anni fa, quando scattò Vincenzo Nibali, che transitò da solo in cima alla Ghisallo, poi in questo tratto in falso piano per arrivare verso la salita di Villa Vergano, dietro tirò soprattutto il Team Sky. Adesso sarà importante capire quali squadre si metteranno in testa al gruppo per cercare di annullare il ritardo. Questo è Trofimov.
Esatto, il 7 somiglia all'1.
Però magari dietro alla fine riusciranno ad organizzarsi, ma un uomo come Voeckler deve per forza di cose far paura, lo dice la sua storia ciclistica e lo dice anche il vantaggio che aveva in cima al Ghisallo. 3 minuti e 11 secondi, non sono pochi.
Non sono pochi, e come tu hai detto Voeckler è uno di quei corridori che quando va in fuga non molla. Sta cercando di rientrare Trofimov proprio perché potrebbe essere utile, perché appena riuscirà a rientrare, se ci riuscirà, potrebbe andare a tirare. È Trofimov, ricordiamo ancora una volta, non è Joaquim Rodríguez.
Down a dust or something, because we had Gio Visconti named as something else 2 minutes ago, and Purito Rodríguez is a little thinner set than that, let's say. Trofimov as well with the capes hanging out the back pocket. 3 minutes and 11. Thank you very much, Yuri Trofimov. Russian rider for Katusha. Gap has grown again, Brian.
Yeah, 3 minutes and 11 seconds now, inside 40 kilometres to go, and Tommy Voeckler looks as if he's looking good for this moment in time. Obviously he got over the Sormano just at tail end of the front group. He was kind of slightly distanced, but he came back on the descent, and when the whole race came back together, he went on the attack, maybe thinking of taking a group with him, because when we came off the Sormano, the Ghisallo was up next, and a good time to go on the attack to try and take some riders with him, but unfortunately nobody went with him, and he finds himself alone. Very difficult to do the last what, 50 kilometres on your own, but Tommy Voeckler really concentrated in trying to do that. Trofimov now makes it back to this main peloton of about 30 odd riders, and I would think that he would have to go straight to the front. You can just see one of the other Katusha riders at the back, and I think that might be Danny Marino. So they'll have to call on their troops to try and bring this gap down to a manageable distance, but it's going to be very difficult for Voeckler on his own. No place to hide in front, with still one steep climb to come towards the finish.
Voeckler pulling faces. They're always worth a watch as well. As I said, that image of him passing the small chapel at the top of Ghisallo, I'm sure will be used in promo videos and previews and all sorts of dramatic montages for years to come. It was absolutely beautiful. He really does know his history. He salutes it, whatever you think of him as a face puller, a bike rider, whatever. It was absolutely magnificent to see, and I'm sure that we'll see those images again and again and again. And every year they go past this chapel, it seems that roads are wet through. You joked in the ad break there, they should rename this race to the one of the wet roads.
Yeah, I think every race in Scotland should be called that as well. But yeah, traditionally known as the race of the fallen leaves. And again, it's just moved slightly towards the World Championships. I think a lot of them were thinking that you ride the Worlds and then go to Lombardia, which has produced very good winners in the past. But not a very good day for this man here, Manuel Morini. But just looking at the composites of this group, about 30-35 riders. We know that we have some very good riders from Movistar, and Katusha also have numbers, but it seems to be Katusha that wants to ride down Tommy Voeckler more than Valverde's team of Movistar. So Movistar not doing anything whatsoever, and they have some cards to play. They've got Quintana, Visconti, obviously he's been on the deck, but I think he'll be kind of used up towards the end if needed. But they've got the world champion Rui Costa. What sort of week has he had? Because when you become a world champion, you have to do some of your the PR stuff. So I'm not too sure. He looked okay on the Sormano, the steepest and the hardest climb here in Lombardia. Valverde, we really don't know what he's thinking at all, because he's made so many mistakes, especially in the World Championships. So again, still a long way to go. Dan Martin also in this front group, another rider that could possibly try and win by launching an attack in the final climb. But I guarantee this man here, Cunego, as he gets a turbo bottle, will not be adding a fourth win in Lombardia this year.
That was an extremely sticky bottle there. Must have been coated in sugar.
Yeah, it's not a sticky one, it was a turbo one.
Voeckler with 35.4 kilometres to go. Last climb has decided the race in both of the 2 years it's been put into the parcours so far. Everything points towards the Villa Vergano. All the main favourites talked about it, but we've got to remember that half of the main favourites have either crashed, DNF for other reasons. We had a did not start as well, unfortunately, for Omega Pharma Quickstep. Mikhail Kwiatkowski was taken ill, deemed not fit enough to start the race this morning, so we were one down before we even started. And it's such a shame, really, in that aspect, because it could have almost been, and still could be on the final climbs, a sort of World Championship Chapter 2, because of all the great climbers and one-day riders that came to this race and came in form, having worked to peak for last week's race.
Yeah, a lot of the riders that were up there towards the end of the World Championships will have pretty much the good form in Lombardia. Whether they're totally motivated with the weather, I'm not too sure. But again, Katusha having two riders towards the back there, Trofimov and Danny Marino, with the two riders towards the back again. Looking towards the front, they have got one rider towards the front. Then you have, I think, Saxo Tinkoff. It could be, I think, from this height, possibly the world champion sitting there in third place at Rui Costa. But again, two riders riding down Tommy Voeckler. I'm pretty sure that they'll need some more manpower. But you can see the peloton all in one line. They know that the pace is up. You have to respect Tommy Voeckler, because he has pulled off some great performances in the past. You can just see this main group of about 30-35 riders all in one line, which shows that the pace is up.
Pace is up. And Thomas Voeckler is still in the lead. 34 Ks to go. No food left. There it is.
I think they're concentrating. There was just something in the rear derailleur there. Sometimes,
arm warmer, I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, sometimes something jumps out of the pocket. You go in to get some food and you forget sometimes your arm warmers are in there. Arm warmer comes out into the back wheel of the derailleur. We've seen this happen in Tommy Voeckler, and when a bottle jumped out and stuck between the wheel and his frame, and he actually fell off badly, and I think it was the Tour of Belgium. So again, there are some hazards on the roads as Trofimov, I think, he's been sent back to the team car now to have a wee word. So he's not having the best of times at the moment, and again, with race radios and World Tour events, they'll be in complete control. So we see the main peloton, probably about 35, maybe just over riders, and now left chasing down Tommy Voeckler. But just interesting to see who is actually doing the chasing at the front, because it does look as if it's probably 2 or 3 teams, but no real numbers been put up. So with 33 kilometres to go, still have one rider in front. That's the Frenchman riding on a Colnago Italian bike, and again, that'll give him some support here in Lombardy.
Certainly will. There's been a few visits to bike shops this week. Chris Froome was down at Pinarello's place, getting some measurements taken, doing a bit of PR as well. He was due to start this race, but has made a late decision not to do. That left Sky with just a 6-man team for this, as Damiano Cunego still struggles away out the back. Not his day, but he is fighting on. Just while we attempt to get confirmation of those riding on the front, a quick word of those who are leaving. As I quickly mentioned, Marco Pinotti, Mr. Professor, leaving the pro saddle. Today, his last Italian race. He'll continue to work in cycling for his BMC racing team, as teammate Philippe Gilbert is at the back there in the red and black of BMC. There's Derek Belamakers, who's decided to end his career very early to concentrate on his studies. Dave Zabriskie as well. He's confirmed today that it's his final day of racing.
I'm just looking to see the rider from Vacansoleil is waving at the moment. That does look to me as if that's Juan Antonio Flecha, and it was reported that
he had a report that he climbed off. Yeah, very, very early on in the day. I thought it was a bit surprising, but again, perhaps just symptomatic of the state of the season that we were in. This is the sort of racing that he really does love.
Well, we had the Piccolo Lombardi yesterday, and that was one. The Piccolo Lombardi is for the young riders. That was yesterday, and it was David Viella of Team Colpark that won that in 3 hours and 53 minutes and 53 seconds. So good result from David Viella, and I think he will be joining a World Tour team next year.
For Claire, as we get these wonderful images overlooking Lago Lario, more commonly known as Lake Como in the English-speaking world.
Just looking at the results in the week of the Milano-Torino race, and gives an indication. Elise won that from Rafael Maika, and I know that a friend of mine in Scotland, Stephen McGinty, has got £5 on him. I think he got them about 100 to 1. Certainly Saxo Tinkoff are looking after him today. He looks in very good form. He rode towards the front in the Sormano, and he has looked really impressive over the last week or so, and looked impressive today.
Well, talking of tipsters, how are you feeling at home? We'd like to hear from you at Rob Hatch TV or at Bryce Smithy on Twitter. Hashtag your tweets Eurosport Cycling, please, and let's hear who you think might win it. Getting towards that time now, make a selection, take a guess. There's about 30 or so riders who could make the win. Who's going to do it?
Well, looking at the history, when you look back, it's always 1 and 2s, and Bettini, Gilbert, Cunego. I think for me, Rodríguez is still looking very good, just sitting in the main group. And again, for me, last year, when we had obviously bad pictures in the run in towards the finish, and when Rodríguez emerged, he won that race. He was the world's #1 at that period of time. So again, Rodríguez is the favourite now. Nibali is not in the race anymore. Katusha have to try and contain, with 30 kilometres to go, the attack of Tommy Voeckler. But again, just looking at the results of Milano-Torino during the week, Tommy Voeckler finished in 8th place. He's only 15 seconds down. But the riders that were up there, Danny Marino was 3rd, Pozzovivo was up there in 4th, Contador, he's been dropped already. Pellizotti, Dan Martin is up there in 11th place. So still a long way to go in this race before we see who the winner will likely to be as Tommy Voeckler comes down onto the lakeside.
Last Frenchman to win this race, 1997, Laurent Jalabert. 11 French winners of this race in previous history. 67 from Italy as Thomas Voeckler just takes that one nice and calmly.
He just kind of straightened up the bike because obviously the blue and the white paint, he didn't want to hit it at any angle, so he just kind of alters his body to go over it in as a much upright position as possible.
Got a view on the left. Don't call it the Belle Paese for nothing. 2 minutes 53. The gap has gone down slightly. Of course, immediately went out and got 2 minutes fairly quickly. But he's since been able to extend that lead beyond 3. Just dipped below that mark again. And as we saw a moment ago, the peloton were in fact strung out. There was hard work being done, so the fruits of that are being seen. But again, on these up and down sections, it's not going to be easy.
No, not at all, especially when you're on your own. Just quite unfortunate for Voeckler that nobody went with them. And it just goes to show you that it was kind of spur of the moment. Everybody came off the Sormano and the hardest climb of this year's Lombardia. And they decided to regroup. Excellent place to attack, but nobody else thought the same.
Pantani vive ancora. Pantani's still alive. The memory of the man that lives long and lives on. He still to this day is the man that keeps cycling tradition, cycling tifoseria or supportership, if you like, alive in this part of the world. Whatever your ideas of him, and I know because of his checkered past, a lot of people have preconceived ideas, which is fine. It's just so important, if you're looking at Italian cycling culture, to know how important the man is. He is everywhere when you see the ride, and of course on graffiti as they come around the corner, and we've seen it twice thanks to our cameras. Now then, another gel and a little push along.
All these things count, and again he's taking on as much as possible, not even taking it on. He actually just holds on to the car or holds on to what he was given, and he throws it away immediately. Just looking at the front of the peloton and now, and we can see the rider from Katusha's coming around the bend, Saxo Tinkoff, and the world champion also towards the front. And I think for me, the world champion Rui Costa is being used to ride Tommy Voeckler down. So now Tommy Voeckler is on the same stretch of road as the peloton. Peloton just coming along the lakeside. This gap will start to come down. It has to come down. You will not want to give Tommy Voeckler a minute coming into this final climb.
We're talking about the last French winner, Laurent Jalabert, to win this race in 1997. Thanks to Irish Peloton on Twitter, by the way, Cillian Kelly, for pointing out that Jalabert's victory in 1997 at this race was the last French win in any of the Monument Classics. So that, indeed, will be a very, very special piece of riding if he could pull it off today. Just under 27 kilometres to go. Remains a big ask. But of course there needs to be organisation, there needs to be concerted effort, and of course there needs to be that M word, that big bit of motivation that we've seen might be lacking in a few riders towards the end.
Well, you can just see that, you know, now the world champion Rui Costa, the head of this main group now, all in white with the world championship bands, and they are thinking of possibly two riders, Valverde and Quintana, maybe a wee bit of a kind of repayment, but the world champion is being riding down at Voeckler at the front. I mean, you get three riders, because we did notice that Saxo Tinkoff were involved with the chase, also Katusha. It means that this man will find it very difficult to stay in front, and most of the people on Twitter now probably thinking of Joaquim Rodríguez Perito for the win here in at the finishing line.
Perito did it last year. Can he do it again? That would be an interesting pattern after Olivier Zaug's win. We had 2 years previous of Philippe Gilbert taking the honours. 2 minutes and 40 seconds. That gap really isn't budging too much. Ivan Santaromita in there in the Italian national jersey as well. There's Emanuele Sella. Wow. hello cycling of the past right at the back of the peloton.
Yeah, he's going to hang it on, but he's still there, just in front in Team Sky's Cataldo. I think the only Sky rider, I think, in this front group. The rider at the front of this group was Vicioso, and for Katusha. So Vicioso riding for his man Perito Rodríguez. Danny Marino just sitting in this group also. Tommy Voeckler just putting his hands up, and he'll be asking for gels and bottles pretty much all the way in towards the finish. Pretty sure that he'll be throwing a lot of the stuff away at the side of the Italian roadside, but any little bit of help will help him, because he has been out for the last kind of 25 kilometres, so he just takes that bit of a gel or a bar. I think by this time most of the riders have taken their solid foods, so it's all about gels, and you can just see him taking it now. The car coming up, constantly giving him as much support as he can. As we said just earlier, that perfect place to attack, but no one else thought of going with him at that time. So Voeckler in front, this gap will start to come down, because there's still a lot of riders in this main peloton, about 30-35 riders.
Interesting you mention fueling and food there, Brian. I know we ask these sorts of things a lot and try to give the viewers at home the best insight into how riders prepare, how they go on about refueling the bodies throughout the race. But you've ridden on these roads, you lived and trained in Como for quite a while. This particular race, with all its ups and downs, we'll get onto that in a minute, because there's been a bit of a spill. One of the I Am riders down. Oh, and yet again, awful look
Marcel
today for
Weiss.
Marcel Weiss. Third time he's been down.
Is that Betancourt as well?
And it looks as though it is Carlos Betancourt of Colombia Nagy. Does seem to be his fairly distinctive body shape.
It's just tiredness at the end of the day when it comes down to it. Just looking to see it. It's actually
Pozzovivo.
Yeah, Pozzovivo, not Betancourt. So again, that's what happens. Kunikov comes past. Just one of these things that a wee bit of tiredness, and that's what happened. It looked as if it was Pozzovivo just sliding out. He was one of the first riders to come down. A reaction in the back of this peloton, and Marcel Weiss comes down. A lot of tired bodies at this moment, the back, and all it needs is to overcook one of these corners, go into it too fast, maybe overlapping the wheel, and Pozzovivo comes down. And again, he's another rider that will be important for AG2R when it comes to, or even the Italians, to win their own classic today, because Pozzovivo showing some good form during the week in Milano-Torino, and again an outsider for a win here in Lecco.
24 Ks to go. Now then, let's get on to that little topic about refueling and eating and drinking. You've ridden around these roads. You lived and trained in Como for quite a while when you were with Motorola, I think it was, back in the 90s. Is this race a little more difficult than the rest to try and fuel your body for? Because, again, it's a one-day classic. You're not racing either side of it, so you're not into a rhythm like you'll be on a Grand Tour. There's ups and downs, there's bad weathers, there's moments that you really need to be in the front group towards the end quite a lot.
The thing about this race is it's refueling. It's got kind of 5 climbs on it, but if you're be given team orders, sometimes you can forget. A lot of the times in this race, it's a descent. It's very difficult to eat in the descent. So, and obviously climbing up, you go up the likes of the Sormano, and you're climbing that for what, maybe about 20 minutes, maybe more than that, and then you come down the descent again, the descent 10-15 minutes. So all of a sudden you've not had a chance to eat, because it's very difficult to eat uphill, and even more difficult to eat going downhill. So again, sometimes the riders have to be reminded about eating, very important, and especially in a race of this length of 242 kilometres.
Back into the province of Lecco, out of the latest tunnel. Plenty of them down here. We've got the Melgonian Pare. The cliffs drop into the lake. Gap is down slightly now, and perhaps he's starting to tire a little. That in addition to perhaps harder work going on behind. 2 minutes and 24 seconds at the last count. And as you can see, there's Lecco in the distance. And it's not really nice weather. It is absolutely lashing it down with rain. 22.5 Ks to go. And we're starting to get quite a few similarities to last year again.
Yeah, last year we had thunderstorms, and obviously we had difficulty in bringing the pictures. But again, drizzle. It's not too cold. You can just see Tommy Voeckler in short arms. Most of the riders are at about 17-18 degrees here at the finish in Lecco. But again, it's that constant drizzle. You know, some dry roads, some kind of wet and patches and things like that. Very difficult racing conditions to race in. But I tell you what, this bunch will have to get their act together. Katusha and Movistar might have to put another rider towards the front to try and bring this man back, because we know what he's capable of. Still a healthy advantage, 2 minutes and 25 seconds, but I think there's still enough firepower left in the peloton behind to bring this man back.
Still he goes, still he works, still he pulls faces. Thomas Voeckler giving it his all for Europe Cup.
I tell you what, he's going to have a lot of Italy shouting at the screens. I know he's a French rider, but he does ride an Italian bike, a Colnago, so a lot of support in this country as we see the peloton behind coming through the tunnel.
Well, it's fantasia, as they call it as well. It's magic. This is the sort of riding they love. And part of the reason, I'll refer back to the Pantani comment around 10 minutes ago. That's why they love cycling in this part of the world. It's the type of cycling they love. They don't want to ride on watts and power meters. They want to see attacks. They want to see invention, creativity and drama. And that's what they're seeing here with Thomas Voeckler. Whether he pulls it off or not is another matter, but it is wonderful to watch. Let's just hope that we can see a lot of it, because that weather is getting a little worse. It's not stopping people on the side of the roads. Brilliant to see. Again, teeth gritted. Voeckler accelerates out the roundabout and attempts to keep his gap as big as possible.
Yeah, you can just see he's starting to tire. He's out the saddle, especially when he comes through that roundabout. He's on the flat, his head's rocking, but again, these are telltale signs in a normal rider, but Voeckler is not a normal rider. He'll go, give 100%. Guarantee if you've got Tommy Voeckler in the team, he'll give 100%. And he's always super motivated. And I just have pictures of him in the Tour de France where he was hanging on to that yellow jersey all the years ago, and everybody thought he was dropped, and then he'd come back and using every muscle in his body. But he's puffing and blowing a bit. I think he's starting to feel the effects of the last 20 odd kilometres of being in the front on his own.
Hello at home. They'll be shown all around the world. Glad those roads are on open. Not a great place to stand, but anywhere to watch this bike race. Bit of shelter as well. I can tell you that Lecco is full of people, as it always is for this race. Como hosting the finish. They do tend to move the finish around every few years here. Of course, we started from Bergamo today, which had never been the start of the race. It had seen a few famous finishes. But Lecco is a perfect setting for it, and with this brilliant climb of Villa Vergano just before, it really sets it up.
That's that same roundabout, so I suspect this time gap is not anywhere near 2.5 minutes. It looks to be as if it's probably just over a minute, because that was the same point, that roundabout where Tommy Voeckler came through. So this race a lot closer, and I think Saxo Tinkoff still got that man at the front. The world champion is still sitting in second place. I think this is Michael Rogers, the Aussie, and the Saxo Tinkoff team. Ridden well today, rode well up the Sormano, riding at the front with Nicholas Roach. Nicholas Roach now dropped. The world champion Rui Costa. Then you have two riders from AG2R. I think that's Sherrill that's behind the world champion, and Betancourt. Betancourt getting stronger and stronger. He had a terrific Giro d'Italia, but again, there's still a lot of riders just sitting on the wheels and waiting for this final climb.
Well, I hope he's listening to his race radio today, that's all I can say, because he had one of those embarrassing moments in the Giro, I think, as well, when he didn't quite know what was going on, because the earphone was out by the side of his jersey when it should have been plugged into his ear.
Was it when he forgot that Belkov was in front?
That's the one. Thought he won. We've seen a few of those this year, comedy moments. But we want one another today.
Philip Gilbert, the number 54, Greg Van Avermaet, I think it's the rider behind him, and number 57. So both riders from BMC in towards the front, with Santa Marita right next to him in the Italian Champions jersey. The one of the pink jerseys moving up, that would be the second rider in the pink jersey on the left hand side, would be, I would think, Ulisse.
Ivan Basso still right at the front as well, and while we've been on air, it sounds as though there's finally been an agreement with Mr. Tinkoff and Cannondale, and I tell you, that's going to be an interesting kit next year, the yellow and the green together. Voeckler looking around, waiting and waiting whilst he continues to pedal. 8.6 Ks more or less from the start of this final climb. We'll just have a think about what is coming up, because it's going to jump on us fairly quickly. Last climb of the day, It is, of course, the Villa Vergano. It's actually called, the climb itself is called the Salita, which is climb in Italian, di Ello. Lasts 3.2 kilometers. You go up 243 meters, average gradient of 7.4, and there's a maximum of 15% in there. And after 230 kilometers, that's got to hurt. Thomas Voeckler of France, and Europe Car still leads with 18.1 kilometers to go of the 107th Tour of Lombardy, the Giro di Lombardia. The next climb, the final climb, up to Villa Vergano, the Salita di Ello as it's named, goes up from Oggiano. Easy enough, relatively easy in cycling terms, and the 15% gradient comes well within the last 500 to 1 kilometer or so. So it's not easy at all. You've got to start well, but more importantly, Brian, you've got to finish it well to get over the top as well.
Yeah, and you still have to have some legs to go on the descent and take it all the way in towards the finish. Tommy Voeckler still in front, one of his Europe car riders just sitting in third place, trying to just hold the wheels, but again, 1 minute 22 as expected. This gap coming down very, very quickly now. Michael Rogers is getting help at the front by Katusha rider Caruso. You can just see the rider from Eurocar just sitting in third place. So two riders trying to bring back Tommy Voeckler, and we suspected that the body mannerisms of Voeckler showing a bit of stress with the effort he's actually put in, and the gap of 2 minutes and 25. But we came off that kind of tricky descent just after where we saw Pozzovivo crash. The gap then was 2:25. So now with 1 minute 17 down with just about 17 kilometers to go. So the winner for me is going to come from the main group behind of about 30-35. But who's it going to be? There's still a lot of riders that we haven't really seen.
Well, I want to ask you about Ivan Basso. He lives fairly close. He lives in Varese, just down the road where, if you've been to Milan, you may have landed at the Malpensa airport, just down the road from that. It's close to Lake Como, it's close to these climbs. He trains on them almost every day. He's not had a great year. He had his horrible saddle sores that kept him out of the Giro d'Italia. He came back, of course, and rode in the Vuelta. Was looking great and had to abandon there. That put paid to his World Championship prospects as well. He talked himself up coming to this race today. He said he felt good as well. Voeckler now losing time. Basso going strong in the bunch. But of course, Basso with this quite short climb still to come. Is it his sort of climb? Because he's a man who likes the long climbs, likes to go at his pace, doesn't get out the saddle, and any change in gradient and change in pace is usually pretty horrible for him.
The riders that are going to excel in this final climb that are in this front group, we're already kind of talked about them. As Voeckler again, he's very animated towards the front. He's getting tired. He's just wanting to know what way to go. He's trying to think. He's coming up towards a road junction and wants to try in the shortest way. You are looking at, by the things of Saxo Tinkoff towards the front, Maika would be a very good rider in this type of climb. You've got Valverde, Quintana have shown even in his form in the Tour of Britain. You can't discount Dan Martin as well, Joaquim Rodríguez, also Danny Moreno, his teammate. I was going to say Pozzovivo, but obviously he's crashed out now. But so many riders. You just see the rider at front, Michael Rogers. Caruso is the rider from Katusha, second place there in the red and the white. Cyril Gautier for Eurocar. Visconti up towards the front, so you can just see these crash. A victim of a crash earlier on today for Movistar, sitting in fourth place. Ivan Basso up there. You can't really discount Van Avermaet and Gilbert, but again, they have been kind of hanging on. They have been distancing the last two climbs, but they're still there. And although this climb is about 3 kilometers long,
just over 3 kilometers long, and the hardest part well within sort of the last kilometer.
You just see Cherel just bringing up Betancourt or Pozzovivo made it back to the front of this race. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. Very difficult to pick these riders out. But Europcar ridden well. You can just see Cyril Gautier, the rider, in their picture now for Europcar.
Looks as though he's been had face pulling lessons off Tommy as well.
Well, he's repaid his dues to his teammate Valverde. His job is done. The world champion from last week. He has been riding at the front to bring back Tommy Voeckler, and just look at the gap now as he started at almost 3 minutes. So Rui Costa now brings it back to 1:01, and job over for him.
I know quite a few of my friends in Spain are going to be absolutely furious about that. Repaying work? There shouldn't have been any work done the other week, surely. Rui Costa, though, world champion. I'm not sure about those white shorts, on a side note.
Well, they've stayed fairly white today, looking at it.
He's been pretty lucky. It's a typical day where there are going to be all sorts of colours but white at the end of it. But he's finished, he's done, and he's done a great job today. Rainbow jersey, that is probably the last of the main riding that we'll see him do in Movistar colours.
Well, you don't like to be dropped as the world champion. You want to kind of fight and stay in there. But again, they have used up Rui Costa rather than Visconti. Visconti being an Italian rider, you would think with the riders that have got in there with Visconti, Valverde and Quintana, so they've decided to, which is a bit, you know, respectful for Visconti being an Italian rider, because he could have been easily used. But now we see the riders from IAM come towards the front.
Joan Chop. Now that is an interesting name. He can climb, he can descend, he can do just about everything. Remember Cima Coppi, Giro d'Italia, I think it was 2010 when he was up against Gibo Simoni. Gibo was out there to get the glory in his last ever Giro d'Italia. He wanted the Cima Coppi. Chop was cruel enough to take it away from him right at the top. He is a man who can win epic bike days, and he might be a man to have a go here. In the meantime, this is still our leader, and Thomas Voeckler with blood on his chin there. I wonder if he's been down while we haven't been looking, or is that from the earlier fall that we saw briefly?
I'm not too sure where it's from. Maybe something's come up from the road or something that we never caught that. But again, not too much of a battle. We can see 3 riders there from Lampre in the pink and the blue. Trofimov, it's all over for him. He's done his work for today. Michael Rogers also we've seen drifting off the back. A lot of these riders have ridden well for their team today. It's up to their team leaders now to finish it off. Coming around this roundabout again with 30 odd riders in this peloton. Tommy Voeckler only 41 seconds in front.
Again, I saw a few people questioning the fact that we labelled Rui Costa as having a really good race today. He's been doing work for a team, and he's done his job. He brought that. He really did help bring that gap back together.
Nobody like he did, and he probably chose to do that after becoming world champion. Sometimes you've got your kind of PR and press to do, and maybe come into this race because you don't lose your form in a week. So it's been very difficult for him, but it's all coming back together thanks to his help.
Gio Visconti, the latest to take up the mantle of the work on the front, so you've got to think that it's all in for Valverde.
It looks very much like that, but Quintana also off the Sormano. It was Valverde and Quintana that were doing the damage on the descent more than the ascent. So again, Visconti comes towards the front to again bring back this man in front, who's been in front since about the just inside the last 50 kilometres. He went on the attack, really suffered now. 34 seconds back to the Visconti-led peloton. Basso sitting there in third place. Chirel number 15 for AG2R. So as we said earlier, all over for Saxo Tinkov's Michael Rogers.
End of the season for Mick Rogers. Great bit of work at the front from him to close the gap as well. Now then, Française des Jeux, Thibaut Pinot. Where have you been?
He's been ducking and diving, and that's what we've mentioned. There's some good riders in here that we haven't really mentioned at all. So they've been hiding away in this main peloton. So we could see some surprises, but it's going to be very difficult because Movistar still have Quintana and Valverde in this very depleted peloton now. I think probably under 30 riders left at the front.
Waiting for Lissi to show his colours as well. In the meantime, Voeckler will fight on towards the death, as I'm sure that his principles and his morals will only allow him to do. Meanwhile, the spectator gets the photo he's been waiting for all day. Just 30 seconds, in fact, it's just less than 30 seconds now as the pace continues to be up behind. Gio Visconti on the front. Couple of wheels back, we have an Age Desert rider, Mikel Charel. Remember, they still have Pozzo Vivo and Betancourt in there. And here we go then. Salita di Ello starting. Goes up 500 metres. That is The total climb, 243 metres, the proper stat below. And again, it's just over 3 kilometres long. And after that, it's descent into Lecco itself.
Yeah, and you see Quintana, he's actually looking after Valverde on the left-hand side, and Juan Antonio Fleischer comes up to join him just on the left-hand side. Pinot is towards the front, but it's Visconti from the Europe car rider Cyril Gauthier. Again, some riders. Just notice that one of the blue NetApp Enduro riders is towards the back of this main group. I can only think that would be Paul Voss, who rode well in Milano Torino earlier on. But this man here is tried to win this race today. 27 seconds now, all over. We are on this final climb. It tops off with about 10 kilometres to go, then a tricky descent. But he'll look around and he'll see a group of about almost 30 riders behind him.
Pulls out his earphones, doesn't want to hear any more from the director sportif behind him. And in the meantime, it's time to go to work for BMC. Yes, on the pedals as well is Ivan Basso. Just in front of him is Chahel. On the left-hand side, we have Nairo Quintana from Movistar.
Well, I said don't discount Gilbert today. Okay, he's been dropped in distance in the Sormano and Ghisallo, but Van Avermaet has now come towards the front, and they want to control things. And I tell you what, Gilbert is one of these riders that if he can get over this climb within a shout, then he is a very, he'll be very good bet for the finish. But again, it's hard to see past Movistar now. But Van Avermaet has been surpassed by one of the riders from AG2R now. As more riders get dropped, Visconti is now being dropped. Again, a lot of riders looking at each other. No attack yet, still a long way to go. Dan Martin on the left-hand side in the blue come towards the front. So interesting times here as we get towards the 11 kilometre to go mark.
On our way up to Villa Vergano, it is almost over for Thomas Vauclair. Whatever you're doing, drop it, salute the man. He's provided the afternoon's entertainment, as he does for many a day during the cycling season. Today is the last day of the big races. He knows it's done. He knows, been knowing it was done for the last couple of kilometres or so, and I think he will gracefully now accept his fate.
Pozzovivo is back now in this group. Chirel is leading. I just noticed that Betancourt is being dropped at the back for AG2R, so Pozzovivo is definitely there. Chirel leads for AG2R, Le Mondial, and just at the behind him you've got Quintana and Valverde. The rider in the Team NetApp Enduro colours is in fact Baros Huzarski, the rider who rode tremendously well with Barton in the World Championship. So as we pick out the riders towards the front of this main route, Chirel leads from Quintana, Valverde, Dan Martin up there with Basso on the left hand side in the green, Maika sitting in fifth, Joaquim Rodríguez is sitting behind him in the Katusha colours of red and white. Pozzovivo, Thibaut Pinot, and then I think it's Gasparotto. So a lot of the climbing talent now moving up towards the front of this peloton.
Emanuele Sella is there as well. Gilbert and Van Avermaet just drifting back. Argos rider there, by the way, is the number 203, Tom Dumoulin, promising Dutch rider. So Euskaltel Euskadi in one of their final appearances. Gorka Verdugo is their final representative.
I think Ben Hermans is the only representative from Radio Shack. So again, Chirel leading from Quintana, Valverde, Dan Martin and Basso, Maika, Van Avermaet.
Darwin Atapuma from Colombia in there. It is his compatriot, though, that's doing a heck of a lot of work on the front.
Robert Hissink in the left-hand side for Belkin in the kind of apple green and black. Pinot moves up in the left-hand side also for François de Dieu in the blue. So Quintana takes it up. Pinot just to his left, to his right is Basso. Just behind him is Gilbert.
And here goes Thibaut Pinot. Off on the pedals, attempting to try and get away. He's chased down quickly by Betancourt. We're coming into the hardest part of the climb now. We have just over a kilometre to go to the top.
Pozzovivo is the rider in second place. Betancourt has been dropped. So Pozzovivo was the rider that reacted the quickest there. So Pinot just goes on the attack. You can see Pozzovivo go and chase him down. Basso still reacting very well, sitting in third place there. But again, is the two dark blue with the green M of Quintana and Valverde just lurking.
Well, you can tell how good form Basso is in. He's up off the pedals. We rarely see that from him. Now look at Quintana go. Quintana chasing down Pozzovivo. Basso, though, doing a great job so far. Valverde now comes close towards the front as well. He's still got the arm warmers on for Movistar.
I tell you what, Rodríguez is sitting about 15th, 16th place at the moment. It's Danny Marino, it's up towards the front for Katusha. So Pozzovivo at the front, Basso now losing losing ground, and then you've got Quintana moves to the side, but you just see up towards the front now as on the wheel of Valverde is Perito Rodríguez. Just behind him, you've got Mike and Dan and Martin. Great to see Omega Pharma Quick Step up there, Peter Serret, but it looks as if Thibaut Pinot is starting to struggle.
Pozzovivo as Basso loses a bit of contact. Coming past him is the Irishman Dan Martin. Just in front is Valverde with Joaquim Rodríguez just in front of that. Just over half a kilometre to go until they're designed to top this climb, according to the route book. This is where it gets harder.
You just see Quintana hanging on. He's already made good efforts today. In fact, just as I say that, he is now dropped. Tom Dumoulin on the right-hand side dropped. Felix Gilbert now dropped Santa Marita. So the composition of the group in front, Pozzovivo at the front for in the brown shorts for AG2R, Perito Rodríguez in the Katusha.
Carry on.
In the blue, but it's Joaquim Rodríguez that decides, where he did it last year when he went on to win, and that's why he won. Deciding to put the pressure on as Rafa Maica tries to respond.
Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver of Spain and Catalonia off through the centre of the crowds, taking off. Absolutely wonderful. Onto the maximum 15% gradient now, and very, very close to the top. Not many are able to follow. The only man who attempted to do so was Pozzovivo.
Well, this is what he did.
Domestique rather than main man today. Here is Perito. Irish fans cheering for him. struggling after over 230 kilometres.
No, amazing scenes here at the ends of the Tour of Lombardia. I think everybody... The former world champion there, Philippe Gilbert, struggling now, but as we move back to the riders that are chasing Perito Rodríguez, and it's Valverde, Dan Martin and Pozzovivo just behind. So a great ride here by Dan Martin, the rider in the blue. Valverde's a rider in second place. Pozzovivo looks as if he's been dropped, and it's Rafael Maica, a great outsider here. I think he was about 100 to 1 before overnight. So you can just see it as we pan out now. Rodríguez says he's already on the descent, but he's got three very good riders behind him.
Van Avermaet at the back. This is the chasing group then of Valverde, Martin, and of course just behind him it looks to be Pozzovivo. Joaquim Rodríguez became the first Spanish winner of this race in its history, amazingly. It took 106 editions for one of the great cycling nations on earth to win this race. Despite all the climbing talent they've had down the years, Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver was the first Spaniard to win. Set to try and do the same again, but is it going to be his national nemesis Alejandro Valverde to lead the chase to chase him down? This could be a very, very interesting fight to the finish, and I think using the word fight is very much allowed in these circumstances.
Yeah, there's no friends when you get to this level of bike racing, especially in a monument like the Tour of Lombardy. Just seeing one of the cars trying to get past the... This is where he went. Rodríguez on the right hand side. It was Pozzovivo set in the way, but Pozzovivo wasn't able to react. And the three riders behind, Mike on the right hand side, Movistar's Valverde and Dan Martin. Riders are trying to chase Rodríguez down, and it seems to be Valverde is the rider more interested in chasing on the descent. I cannot see that Rodríguez has got much more than 10-15 seconds at this moment.
They're chasing. Where is Joaquim Rodríguez? A look up the road, round the next bend, in fact round the next couple of bends. It's still not nailed on though, and Joaquim must pedal for his dear life.
Well, he was in this place last week in the World Championships, but Rui Costa is now gone. But again, Joaquim Rodríguez in the best place. It really depends on Maica and Dan Martin. If they help Valverde, then three riders have to, in the last 7 kilometres, have to ride together. The man that's on form. Hard to see past Rodríguez when we come into this race, but again, will the three riders of Martin, Maica and Valverde combine together to bring this Spanish rider back?
The rider from Spain, from Catalonia, Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver. 8 seconds is his solitary lead. Oh dear, is it enough? That's the question. It is so difficult to point out. For those behind, it's all about finishing now. In the meantime, these three are interested. Valverde seemingly more than the rest. Dan Martin still in with a chance, and of course if he gets to some sort of fast finish, Valverde has to be the favourite, surely.
Yeah, Dan Martin can sprint as well after 242 kilometres. You can just see the neutral service car pull over to the side to take up position behind the three chasers. Valverde has distanced Dan Martin in some of the corners, so I don't think Dan Martin is wanting to take too many risks.
It's deja vu with 5.8 kilometres to go. You and I sat in the commentary box 12 months ago and talked over Joaquim Rodríguez riding down these very roads in the wet, in the rain, with reduced visibility, to his first victory on the Giro.
Go on, Brussel. Go on, Marcus. Go on, Bart Clark.
Needs a three-man chase group just behind. 11 seconds at the last count, but it can change at the drop of a hat.
Looks to be slightly extended now, and again three riders not really kind of combining well. Difficult to work in a descent like this. Probably better in front where Perito Rodríguez is, but again it's the rider from a Movistar just distancing Dan Martin and Rafael Maica behind. So Valverde doing all the chasing at the front, and Dan Martin just following for this moment in time.
Remember, just like he was 12 months ago, plenty of people pointing out that he will be the world's #1 cyclist for a second year in a row, and again by winning this race. That's just to add to the sense of deja vu. Whatever happens. A wonderful race, and one that is about to reach its conclusion. In the meantime, desperately trying to get on again for BMC, and gaining a little bit of ground is Philippe Gilbert alongside Greg van Avermaet.
I think he's further down. He's coming up to Landa of Euskaltel Euskadi and Tom Dumoulin. They're a wee bit further back from the front of the race, but definitely Rodríguez has got an open road in front of him. But Movistar just distancing Dan Martin and Maica, and possibly the crash in the World Championships. Maybe Dan Martin losing a wee bit of confidence. He's looking behind to see if Maica is still with him. So the two riders in the middle of or the bottom of the screen, Maica for Saxo Tinkoff just at the back of Dan Martin. A bit of a distance now up towards the Movistar rider, and that is Valverde, but in front of them by about 10-15 seconds is Joaquim Rodríguez.
Kom aan, hè. Dirk, is het de laatste wedstrijd? Is het de laatste wedstrijd? Ja. Proficiat, hè, man.
Victory at the World Championships, not a good thing in everybody's eyes, certainly in the eyes of Portugal, not necessarily in the eyes of their host nation, their base nation, Spain. Front of the race with Perito Rodríguez. Still on the descent into Lecco. Not too much of the final part of the race is actually flat. Of course, the cliffs really dropping straight into the centre in this part of the world.
Ja. Hey, kom aan, hey!
We said last week, Joaquim Rodríguez, this man with the #1 in his back after winning this race last year, in the same position he was in the World Championships last week, but fortunately for him, Rui Costa is not the man chasing him behind. It's his countryman Valverde is slightly distanced Dan Martin, the Irish rider for Garmin Sharp, and Rafael Maica for Saxo Tinkoff. So Valverde trying to chase him down. 2.2 kilometres to go. I don't think Valverde's got the legs to cross this gap on his own. For me, it looks as if Joaquim Rodríguez is going to double up here, and Valverde will soon be looking behind him to see if Dan Martin and Rafael Maica can help him to bring this man back. But with 2 kilometres to go, I think it's all over.
Joaquim Rodríguez will have been targeting this one just as he was targeting last week. Great defence of the title, perhaps about to be carried through. They win this one in twos, remember. Philippe Gilbert a few years back as well. All the talk of Damiano Cunego as well during the last part of the last decade. Inside the final 2 kilometres, and his lead at the last count was around 12 seconds.
As we're panning out now, you can just see this gap slightly opened up to maybe 15, 20 seconds. And again, the two riders at the back of Valverde, Dan Martin and Micah, trying to combine together. If they were able to go with this man here, Valverde, then they might have stood a chance. But it's man against man now inside the last 1.5 kilometres. And it's the two Spanish riders at front in the red and the white. You've got Joaquim Rodríguez and the dark blue colours of Valverde behind. It does look as if he's going to double up here. You can just see the kilometre to go in front of him, and he'll be happy to see this after 241 kilometres. And it looks as if Joaquim Rodríguez is going to double up in Lombardy.
Well, he doesn't have to bother asking the cameraman to hold on to his glasses this year. That was a bizarre incident last year when he should have just thrown them away. Into the last kilometre anyway for Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver, the number one on the race, and he's going to be the number one on the day again. Turns right, going to go over the bridge, along by the lakeside, and ready to sign off another season as the top cyclist on the planet in terms of the UCI points system. The Katusha rider who started the season thinking that he might have to have a transfer to a World Tour team as an emergency option to ride the world's best race. All that was negotiated, and here he is ready to lap up the applause again as he's 500 metres to go, and all ready to confirm himself as the winner, the number 2 winner in 2 years for Spain. Big deep breath, just wants to stay upright now because he knows there's nobody near him behind. One more right turn, and then it is that final run into the centre. Again, he looks around. Perhaps this is the moment where it hits him. The Lombardy region flags fly as Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver flies himself into first position. He celebrates a win. And it might not have happened for him last week, but the tears turn to celebration. Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver winning for the 2nd year in a row. He is our winner of the Giro di Lombardia. Alejandro Valverde, again a protagonist in that tearful show last week, is going to come across in 2nd place. And in the sprint for 3rd, well,
something happened to Dan Martin in that corner. Looks as if he's come off again.
It's his chain.
Yeah, he's looking to try and stay on. You just see shorts are down, so it looks as if Dan Martin has actually crashed in the last couple of corners. Gasparotto is coming at him, and can Dan Martin keep on for 4th place? In fact, he does. He takes 4th place just in front of Gasparotto there, as we see the main group being led by Danny Moreno coming in. Peter Serret, a good ride by him in the left-hand side for Amiga Pharma Quick Step. There and comes down with the paint and the road there, but another great win for Perito Rodríguez in the Tour of Lombardy.
Out the way, and we do hope the rider who came down there is okay.
I think it was Posivivo, the AG2R rider, but just touched his front brake as we hit that paint. We've seen this happen before.
In fact, my thinking goes back to a worse incident a few years ago at Scheldeprijs in Belgium, pardon me. An awful crash after the finish line. Thankfully, everything looks to be okay. Everything's certainly fine in his world. Joaquim Rodríguez Oliver, 7 days ago, down the road in Tuscany, in Florence, crying his eyes out. Couldn't believe that, let's say, a traitor, as he's been labelled in certainly some quarters, had betrayed him. But today, he did it all for himself. Great work from being shaken across. We're all ready, and we're hoping to hear from Joaquim Rodríguez in just a moment's time.
Amazing victory, 2 times in a row. You must be very pleased today.
Oh, sinceramente espectacular.
Yeah, sincerely, absolutely brilliant, spectacular. Oh, we know it's a monument. And of course, I've been informed recently, so we knew we were going to go for it. And of course, pushing with great force on that last climb, and I did it.